entertaining. First of all, my first guest grew up in New York City and is a retired professional ballet dancer, with a passion for creative design. And my second guest is an award-winning public relations and marketing executive. Please welcome Daphne Hargrove and Nicole Randall, co-founders of the new app, Yuru. Aloha.
Hi. Aloha. Thank you.
How are you folks today?
Good.
Yeah, we just had a robust conversation about parenting, and now we're going to go right into tech and entrepreneurship. And I have to ask, in doing my research on the both of you, and I've been following you for a while, Nicole, you folks both had very successful careers, were on a great path, both professionally, as far as making money, starting a new family, and then this about face, and right into entrepreneurship where there's so much risk, yet so exhilarating. How did that come about?
Well, sure. I think, the nice thing about life is that it always kind of hands out surprises, and it's all about how you kind of roll with the punches. And Daphne and I have been friends for several years now, and so when she approached me with this idea, even though the timing may have been less than perfect, we both had really busy lives. My husband is, he has a full-time job. He's doing his MBA. He's in the Air National Guard, and so this was something that we had to kind of decide as a family if we would be able to make this commitment, because it's a big commitment and
Yes.
There's lots of sacrifice involved. But ultimately, the more that we talked about it, my husband and I, but also Daphne and I as friends and as business partners, it seemed like we couldn't not do this. And I just loved the idea when Daphne told me about it, and I was like, I've needed this my whole life. Like, where has this been? So I think that's when you know that you're onto something really special, and that it's worth sort of following that thread to the very end and let the chips fall where they may, but you just have to give it your all and know that risk is worth it, right. Even if it's failure at the end, and really there's no failure. You always learn something. So.
Yes, and I'm all about, people are comfortable in stability, and for me, stability is a myth. You just asked the 500 people getting laid off this year from Marriott Iolani, the resort, that they thought they had stability there and not. And you're coming from a retired ballet dancer with a passion for design, right? And then now you're in tech.
I think, like, you just hit the keyword, passion. That's been my entire life, and I've chased it. Like, it's whatever fuels me, I go for it, and I go for it strong. And I think part of the thing is I love to do the things that move me, but also if something that I'm doing moves somebody else emotionally as well, and I can see that it's making a difference in their lives, it just pushes me even harder and even further. And like Nicole said, when I have an idea, something that I feel really strongly about, really passionate about, I just put everything into it, everything. I always dive in head first. It's how I've always lived my life, and I kind of feel like no risk, no reward. So that's basically what
in
has
Hawaii,
brought us to
it's
this
the
point.
all in, right? It's the I'm all in or I'm not.
Yeah.
And when you're an entrepreneur, I know, and we all know, that you have to be that way.
You do.
Right? In order to see some sort of success or even learn the lessons, you have to be all in when you dive in there. So if not one obstacle, right, is leaving your comfy positions in the corporate world and winning awards doing what you did and loved and were excellent at, you folks are women in tech. And talk about an industry that is striving for some kind of equality and respect as far as we as women go. I haven't necessarily felt any sort of or any level of discrimination that I'm aware of. It could have been happening. I could have been so oblivious to it. How has it been your experience? Because I know that you folks are based here in San Francisco and have pitched and traveled the west coast of the United States for quite some time, sharing your idea.
I think one of the things I don't think we've personally felt that discrimination. Specifically, we know that things exist, and there was a great documentary that we watched when we were at Women 2.0. We were at a conference that specifically highlights women in tech, which was amazing, and we met the most incredible women entrepreneurs and women in tech. It was absolutely inspiring. And one of the things that they talked about is with investors, there have been times where, women have been told, you don't even want to approach that company because you're a woman and they won't really, they won't invest in women. Hearing that is definitely extremely hard because, you know, you're thinking, I have an incredible product and, you know, we know what we're doing and why wouldn't somebody want to give us that chance? So having heard that, it definitely, you know, puts you a little bit
on guard
and on your, you know, on your toes, but we've had so much support, at least here in Hawaii, which, I mean, you can talk more about that, but that has definitely been one of the things that also keeps us going. And
for sure. I mean, I would agree. I don't think that we felt any sort of outward aggression from men. Rather, it's been quite the opposite. Some of our biggest champions have been men here, and we were part of the Blue Startups Accelerator. And one of our biggest champions is a local man named Rob Robinson, who has been such a great advisor and friend and champion and supporter of us. And so we love learning from the people who have gone there before us. And you know, so I think anything that we might see in the Valley might be a bit more passive. We might just get a rejection letter from an investor and saying, oh, you know, the market's really crowded, or you know, we just need to see you get a bit more traction first. And maybe they would be more inclined to invest in a business like ours if the co-founders happen to be men, but we'll never know. Right. So all we can really do is just keep on trying and do what we do best. And
I think also we have some fantastic advisors in the Valley as well, and women who have been in this industry and in this space for decades.
Right. So there's a lot of women that have paved the way for us,
and
have taken the hits.
And we're,
right.
Exactly.
So it's easier. Right?
We're so fortunate to have them on our advisory board, and you know, they've been able to tell us their experiences, how to learn from that, how to, you know, not pay any heed to that, or how to, like, you know, take it head on. And I think that's been really valuable.
So exactly, even for myself, like I said, I could be oblivious to it, you know, and you folks could just be so focused and looking to attract, right, the right people, that if it is happening, we wouldn't even know.
Right.
Right, we wouldn't even know.
I think there's a lot of women investors now too. We're seeing, I mean, just recently, and if you're reading up on the news in this industry, like, you're seeing that there's a lot more emphasis now on encouraging women who may have been reluctant to become like an active investor, that there are a lot more resources in place. There's crowdfunding organizations like a group called Portfolio in San Francisco that we're talking to, that are really encouraging women investors, so that way women investors are more likely to invest in companies that are founded by women, and kind of bring that full circle and make it easier for you know, co-founded or women-led companies to get where they need to be.
And I think too, at a certain point, you just have to be like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You do. You just have to put all of that aside, and you're like, if we're going to go for this and do this, we're going to do it. And, you know, biases or whatever doesn't matter. And you know, just know that we're going to get rejected by some people. Others are going to love us, and we're going to focus on the positive and the good and go towards that, and the ones that are supportive. And
right.
So
take the feedback to grow, and then focus on, you know, who's funding, right? Who's actually going to push you forward. So if not, you know, leaving your jobs, that's one obstacle, right? The comfy, cozy. Women in tech, right? You folks chose to build your business here in Honolulu and in San Francisco. You know, so for me, I mean, I get that all the time, like, you know, Neenz, if you just moved out here, if you just did this here, except, you know, Hawaii is my home. It's like, I'm born and raised here, you know, and when people get here, they realize they might be reincarnated Hawaiians.
It has that allure.
And so, yes, and so if it's your home, so that's yet another challenge, because I know locally, and I fight for it, and so does ThinkTech Hawaii, we fight for recognition of a tech industry here.
We were pretty much told, you hands down have got to move to the Valley. Like, you have to move to San Francisco. I think
we hear that a lot.
All the time from everyone. It has obviously such a rich, I mean, that's where the entire industry is. It's definitely, there's a presence growing here, and we're trying to help seed that and add to that. But it is true that networking opportunities, I mean, way more prevalent, obviously, in the Bay Area. So, you know, there are definitely challenges with being here in Hawaii, but this is where our home is, this is where our families are, and you know, we are, I think, pretty determined to make it work, at least to start the business here, and we have both talked at length about that we'll do what we need to do to make this a success. But there is something super incredible and exciting about having something like this be born. Come from Hawaii, be born here.
And also, you know, it's not like before where we don't have to take a canoe to get anywhere else, or even a ship, right?
It's very romantic. That's like
we can just hop on a plane. You know, the airlines flies us to different destinations and so forth. My thinking is that I can live here, raise my family here, and I can travel where I need to go to make my business grow.
And yeah, that's where funds come in for us. That's what,
And so you folks are receiving more reception from the West Coast? Did you participate this last week in East Meets West?
We did, we were part of the pitch competition.
Okay.
So, and we heard a lot of talk about how hard it is to grow a business here in Hawaii, but the interesting thing about the East Meets West conference is that it brought together investors and entrepreneurs and folks from all over Asia, all over the mainland, mostly I would say the West Coast of the U.S., and then here in Hawaii. And then, you know, the focus was on how Hawaii is this amazing window into both marketplaces. And it can really be this, like, sort of gathering place for all of us. We're a rich melting pot here in Hawaii of some of the more traditional Asian cultures, and then obviously like mainland business folks that when they're very successful in California, a lot of them have homes here. And so there's a lot of opportunity here, and it's still growing, but we want to be part of that growth. And so that's why it's really important for us to.
Right on. Any insights from the Asian investors that you folks picked up last week?
Well, I mean, one thing that we've talked about and that we've known is that Yuru, the concept and the product itself, is culturally a perfect fit for
the Asian market.
We have people that are very interested in potentially partnering with us and working with us. So it's dialogues we're now entering into and talking about. But so that's one thing that we've heard.
That's an interesting point that you bring up, like being based in Hawaii, right? They talk about a lot about how we're a melting pot, and the local culture, even for myself, is that I'm a little bit of everything, and I realize I'm a whole lot of Asian, you know, in my ways and the way I raise my kids and everything, and it's because of, you know, who we are, from the people who came from Hawaii, from Japan, China, you know, Philippines, just all over. And so it only makes sense that if you're based in Hawaii, that your product, your app, Yuru, would be a bridge and kind of cross over to the different cultures. Makes sense to me.
Makes sense to us.
Makes sense to you folks too? Do you just add that to the Genesis story as if it was always part of that? Yes. One thing I learned in tech is that the Genesis story is always developing. Right?
Well, one thing though that Nicole and I had talked about since you met was global growth. I mean, the thing about Yuru is that seeking and sharing advice is human nature. So that makes Yuru globally relevant. It's something that could, you know, and should and will be used by, you know, countries all around the world for anybody. Anybody always, you know, everybody always needs advice or wants to share. I mean, so that's one thing.
Yes, I mean we've become such a social culture of sharing that this generation now is it's part of their DNA. It's no taking it back. So right now we're going to go to a commercial, and when we return, we're going to hear all about Yuru, the modern spin on the advice column. We'll be right back. Mahalo.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. I'm host of Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy, which is our flagship show, which plays 4 to 5 p.m. every Wednesday. And the supporters of that show are Hawaii Energy Policy Forum and Hawaii Energy. And luckily enough, we have representatives of both of them right here today to tell you more about what they think about the show. Sharon Moriwaki at my left is co-chair of Hawaii Energy Policy Forum, and she goes first. Sharon?
Thank you. Thank you, Jay. I'm so glad that we have this Hawaii, the State of Clean Energy. This was 2 years ago when we started this, and we have continued it because it's so important. And there's so many developments happening across the state. And we hope you'll tune in every Wednesday, 4 to 5. It's wonderful.
And Ray is Hawaii Energy. Ray, what is your thought about the same subject?
Well, I agree completely with Sharon that we are talking about every Wednesday, 4 to 5. We talk about some of the most important subjects that are affecting the islands now and into the future. Energy. Clean energy, we need it. We often run into new ideas that we had not thought about before. We did just today, and I think we're going to have more of that in the future. So come on down and watch us 4 to 5 on Wednesdays, and we'll see what happens.
We'll see you then. Aloha.
Aloha.
Welcome back to Reaching Out. My name is Neenz Feleafine. I'm here with the co-founders of Yuru, Daphne and Nicole. And what I wanted to ask them about was, last week was the East Meets West conference, and you folks won some awards. Share that with us, please.
We won Audience Favorite, and also Bootstrap Labs Judges Pick. So yeah, we were invited to go to San Francisco for 2 weeks for some awesome networking opportunities with Bootstrap
So you'll be
Labs.
able to, so the lab is looking at you folks and seeing, what you can explore. That's wonderful.
Yeah, we're excited, very excited.
And what is the qualification for Bootstrap Labs? I'm just going to guess that you folks were...
Well, it's like it's an accelerator program basically, but it's an accelerated program because it's 2 weeks. So normally accelerators are like 3 months or so, and this is 2 weeks, and it's very intensive. The first 2 weeks of December, and so Ben Levy was here and was one of the judges during the pitch competition, and was able to give out an award for the one company out of the 13 international companies that
That's
he thought
awesome.
would best benefit from the opportunity, and we were chosen. So we were really honored. And
Right. So when I was thinking bootstrap, I'm thinking going lean. However, with it's accelerator 2 weeks. I'm thinking like putting your bootstrap up and you're going get ready for the ride.
Yeah, exactly.
However, congratulations and great job. 13 international companies, and then here's all those obstacles we just talked about before the commercial break, and breaking through them one at a time.
nice
So
validation.
So let's talk about Yuru. It's a mobile app advice column, and just go into what's the genesis. I know you shared a little bit about how she pitched you, and hey, it was the match made in heaven. However,
you did pitch me, didn't you?
I was like, I have this idea. You have to hear this.
We should start then.
And so, how did it come about?
So, I mean, I was going through a period in my life, had some difficult moments. Things were hard, and while my friends were an incredible circle of support, not everybody necessarily has been through the things that you particularly have been through, and so while they can be supportive, they may not have been in your shoes, so they may not be the ones that are best equipped to give you the kind of advice that you actually need. And I happened to have been at a conference, and one of the speakers was talking about how to take past failures and learn from them and be more successful. And one of the things he was talking about is how to have a better chance at success. And he said, you can take something tried and true and make it new, put it online. And he gave the examples of the Yellow Pages. You put it online, you've got Yelp. Or classifieds, you put it online and you've got Craigslist. And I automatically was like, advice columns, you put them online and you've got, and then, I actually started thinking about it in terms of how it would be helpful to me personally and to things that I was going through. And, there was Dear Abby in the past. And I mean, everybody knew about Dear Abby, and it had helped millions of people. And that was one person's advice. And same exact thing, even just like Dear Abby, same thing with a therapist. While you can benefit so much from a therapist, these individuals may also have never been going through what you were going through. And again, it would be nice to be able to cast a wider net. And so I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if you had a place that was crowdsourcing for advice, but a place where you could feel safe in being completely honest, because some of the things that you want to ask about are definitely very personal. It's not anything you would ever ask on Facebook. Also, Facebook connects you to a limited network, and the idea is that you also want to be able to get unbiased feedback from people who don't know you.
Right.
So,
I mean, you could. Your mom, at this point, Facebook is so open to everyone that your mom is actually going to see.
No, exactly. Your coworkers, your boss. Like, I have ballet students of mine that are on Facebook, and the thing about Facebook is it's incredible, and it's a way to connect with people and share, and it has incredible value. but it's also the very sanitized and scrubbed version of our lives, right? We put all of, you know, the wonderful things and achievements and accomplishments on Facebook, and kind of self-promotional. And so, you know,
It's all me.
we thought, and I was thinking, where do you go when you have something more personal, more private that you don't want to ask publicly, but you would love to have the advice from your friends, but also the advice from people who may have been in your shoes, unbiased feedback. And so the idea for Yuru kind of popped into my head as the modern day advice column.
You know, I didn't even feel that. I mean, we've talked about Yuru before. I played around with it. I thought it was fun, more of a gamification of advice, except, like, there's a deeper story, you know, to it.
Well, and exactly, and part of it is that, you know, your questions are not always super deep and super meaningful and scary or embarrassing. Sometimes you have much more trivial, lighthearted questions.
Yes.
And that's the whole idea behind it, is that it's a place where you can go, where you can ask whatever advice you need. And when Nicole and I started working on it and, you know, planning it out and doing the wireframes, we were talking about kind of the 4 buckets of categories when you're asking for advice. And so usually if you're asking for advice, you would ask, should I, whatever, this or that, you know, yes, no, or this or that, which one should I do? Another
blue dress, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm, you know, going on a first date, which do I wear? I'm getting an engagement ring, which one do I choose? Things like that. And another question, which is definitely a very fun one, is have you ever?
Yeah.
Which everybody always correlates to the drinking game.
Ever 7, yeah.
Of course, which is super fun, and that's what makes Yuru so incredibly entertaining. But the thing is, sometimes you do want to know if other people have done that, because it makes you feel less alone, you know, maybe not so much as like a freak for having thought those things, gives you validation on your own, and it enables you to take the pulse, like, of the community and kind of see what everybody is sort of feeling. And you know, and we give an example. Sometimes you can ask, like, have you ever snooped through your significant other's phone? And that is definitely not something you would ask on Facebook. But like, some people want to know, because they're, you know, maybe having their own issues, and they want to see, are there other people that are doing that, and what do they have to say about it?
Right. There could be someone who's never had, and their circle of friends are like, I do it all the time, do it.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, am I the only one who does it? I would answer, no, I have not.
Good for you. And so the thing about Yuru is that it enables you to sort of take this quick pulse through the voting categories. So we wanted people to be able to kind of take a snapshot of the collective wisdom of the community's mind, right? So, you know, you can see in real time right away if you ask a yes/no question, like, you know, there have been guys on our app that have been like, should I keep the beard? And like, overwhelming is like, yeah, like, you know, and then there are comments, and the nice thing about the comments too is you can see what, it's not just a yes/no, but, you know, girls can be like, oh, you know, digging the lumberjack look, like it's very, or, you know, I like a beard, but maybe not that big, a little bit more well-groomed. And
brush your hair while you're at it.
Exactly.
Loose man bun.
And the other beauty of Yuru is that you can filter the responses to really see whose opinions you want to. And this is really important because, you know, for example, a mom, we're both moms, asking a question, you know, about your child, and you may not necessarily want the advice from the 18-year-old who, you know, I mean, but you may also. So the nice thing is you can filter responses by gender, by age, by location, by whether you're a parent. So, you know, if you're asking, like, which dress should I wear on my first date tonight, and you're putting up 2 pictures, maybe, you know, I would only want to know what guys think.
Yes.
Or maybe only people in my age range.
Right.
So Yuru enables you to do that. So it's really tailoring the experience entirely to you, the user. So you can ask openly or anonymously for more private questions. And this is kind of the main, you know, meat, I think, of our app, because there are things out there that are only open, only anonymous. We give you the option based on, you know, your need at the time, and then you can drill down and get the advice and see the advice from the people that you want to. Only strangers, only your friends, the most popular advice. So there are a whole bunch of filters that allow you to customize it. Yeah.
One of the things you touched on earlier was the importance of inclusion, right? That I'm not alone. Years ago, I wondered why. Why are a billion people on Facebook? You know, why are we there? And I found a very simple study, and it's the need to belong. Basically, everyone wants to belong somewhere. And before there was the internet, everything, we would have to belong to, you know, our families, our coworkers, and sometimes in those real life settings, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for some people, you know. I always talk about how I've always wanted to be a member of the Rotary Club, and in order for me to do that, I have to be invited, and no one invites me.
What's wrong with you people? Why wouldn't you want me?
If I want to belong to a country club, right, I have to be invited and have money, right? You know, so already I feel excluded. And then there's this social networking, and now there's Yuru, where I have these crazy thoughts, or am I alone? And Yuru lets you know that no, you're not alone, right? And go ahead and ask us. You know, you're gonna find like we say, your peeps are gonna be in the Yuru community.
That is awesome that you got that sense from it right away, because that is entirely what we want. And we talk so much about wanting to provide this safe place. We really want to foster a super positive environment. There are, like I said, there are other apps out there, other anonymous only, that have become breeding grounds for trolling and slander and bullying. Bullying especially, which is just, I mean, some of the consequences have been absolutely devastating, catastrophic. And so anyway, we really wanted to set ourselves apart completely, and we want to be this like awesome place where people can go and you can ask any kind of question, and you will find the answers that you're looking for, because there will be people that will know what you're going through and know what you're feeling, or even just want to chime in, because doesn't everybody always want to give their opinions too?
Right. So there's either people looking for opinions, or the ones that are like, I'm on social media because I'm great at giving advice. One of the things I love about Yuru is that you folks set boundaries. You set boundaries for your users, right? Because I thought about it like, man, if I'm going to ask a question, you know, people have issues about just a Facebook comment or a YouTube comment, right? Because the internet is mean, and it keeps people away. And yet you folks have the rule, don't be evil, right? You know, and I love that, because I always advise my clients that it is your website, it's your blog, it's your everything. You don't have to play with everyone, right? If they're not nice, right?
We don't want everyone to play,
right?
honestly.
We're not afraid,
The internet is getting nastier and meaner over time. I think people are just getting kind of, I don't know, maybe they feel protected because of anonymity, or because they're not right in front of a person. They would say things on the internet they wouldn't say in their presence. And that's really sad. And so that's why we very early on, I mean, from the very beginning, as we were like, Daphne was sketching in her notebook, like, this has to be safe. We have to have a mechanism for the community to self-police, report and call each other out when they think something is inappropriate, or just remove stuff from their feed that they don't want to see, whether it's boring or nasty, irrelevant. And then we also partnered with a man named Himanshu Nigam, who I worked with many years ago at MySpace. And he's kind of like the
MySpace.
I know, MySpace,
where it all started for Hawaii.
Exactly. Right. And Hemu was our head of policy at MySpace, and that was the first time that you really started seeing some of these nasty bullying and trolling and pedophile cases kind of coming into the news. And I was on the international communications team, and so worked with him quite a lot, actually. And so we reached out to Hemu when we were in the wireframing stage and said, can you what do you think of this idea, and would you be willing to help us make sure that our users stay safe and protected? And he loved the idea. He's like, this is amazing. Yes, I'd love to help you. And so we spent a lot of time with his team. It's called SSP Blue. He's a consulting firm now and he consults with the White House, with the United Nations. He's on the Family Online Safety Institute board, and he's just amazing. And so he and his team went through every bit of our app and analyzed everything. They went through our terms and conditions, our privacy policy, gave us recommendations, and we built that into our framework.
And so that's how you got the don't be evil policy. It's so simple.
And there are features, I mean, we have features, like Nicole said, features built in, but just also from a personal standpoint, I mean, we're not afraid to lose users that are not adding value to and taking
zero
away.
tolerance for nastiness and harm.
So we're going to take a break right now, and we're going to continue the discussion with the co-founders of Yuru and find out more about what's in store for the future, and how to be anonymous when the world is pushing you to be transparent.
This is Alice Lee Hagan, host of ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. My show here at ThinkTech Hawaii is every Thursday from 3 to 4 in the afternoon. I bring in interesting guests from Hawaii, the mainland, and hopefully international guests in the future. Do join us on Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. ThinkTech Hawaii Business Education Spotlight. Aloha.
Welcome back. We're talking with the co-founders of Yuru, the mobile app. Please go and download it. It is the modern spin on the advice column, and it goes deeper than just having fun. I wanted to talk to you folks about you folks giving us permission to be anonymous and or asking questions or getting advice as myself. You know, the internet is pushing for transparency, right? It started out, we could all be anonymous, right? You know, we could be a surfer girl, 21, you know, when it first came out, and then we push for, you know, having your own face. However, you folks have found this space of safety, I guess, for people.
Well, I think the thing about anonymity is that for some people, it's the only way that they will be honest and allow themselves to be honest and seek the help that they're looking for. I think so many people actually have issues and problems and worries and fears that they don't actually ever talk to people about because they're embarrassed about it or they're worried about what the repercussions might be, you know, from someone finding out that it was them that had, you know, those thoughts. And so the anonymity factor is very important because it does allow you to ask those questions that you might otherwise hold inside. But at the same time, you know, sometimes your questions don't always call for anonymity, and sometimes it's great to get validation as yourself. I mean, don't as a culture, we all love validation. Like, you know, when you're like on Instagram and you get like the little likes and the hearts, you're like,
the heart,
yeah,
right?
No, exactly. So you love, you know, so we understand the value of that as well. So that's why being open sometimes and anonymous sometimes, and you know, it's kind of what you need at that time. So.
Right, and then allowing for the advice. You know, we discussed that there are other apps that allow you to just say something anonymously and people can reply back. Except some of that what's posted is very serious, right? And so there needs to be a way to sort of keep them engaged in, hey, you're not alone, you know. And so the way that you folks have set up Yuru to give feedback, to comment, you know, it could save someone's life. It could have them do a 180. Have you folks heard any personal stories yet from users?
Yeah, and it's organically that's been happening. So we have actually had several people there feeling like, you know, their lives were meaningless and they were ready to kind of give up. And one thing that I do want to say, which I'll touch on in a second, about crisis resources, because that's something that was really important to Nicole and I too, to make sure that, you know, we have those links. But yeah, I think it's been overwhelmingly supportive, like overall, and this is organically. I mean, we have users signing up. Originally it started in a beta, a closed beta with our friends. And then, you know, obviously we've gotten just organically, we've had new users come on all different age ranges and genders, and we've seen that people are overwhelmingly supportive. There are, of course, you know, the sarcastic comments and every now and then snarky. I think they're hysterical. As long as someone is not harmful in any way, you know, those are fun too, because sometimes you need a straight up shot of like candor. Like you need some like honesty, right? You know, in your face. Sometimes people need it.
And have a sense of humor.
Yeah, exactly, and that's so important.
That you're not alone. Let's all laugh together.
Exactly. But yeah, we've seen a bunch of those examples, and the community has basically rallied and been supportive. And I mean, the more use we see on the app and the more users, you know, the more support you'll see and the more value it'll bring. But even with, you know, the user base that we have now, it's been pretty awesome to see that. And people will actually comment, because you can comment openly or anonymously. Same thing if somebody is having a problem and you want to be able to say, look, I relate completely because I went through it. You may not want people to know who you are as well. So we had that, you know, we have that feature that you're able to comment anonymously. And yeah, it's been pretty awesome to see how supportive
That's wonderful.
the community is.
A lot of posts end with good luck or like I'm rooting for you. I mean, people, if you notice, like a lot of the comments went on some of those deeper post where somebody is struggling, it's nice to see our community kind of naturally rally around that person and say, like, hang in there, like, it's tough, but it's going to get better, and good luck, and thinking
And we've
of
had
you.
people thank us, like on the app within the comments. Some people write back, and we're always adding new features, so we want to add features in ways where people can, you know, do that as further. But in the comment section, they've been like, thanks so much, that actually really helped. So it's instant validation.
You know what I thought of too with this whole anonymous, you know, with organizations like Narcotic Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, they've been successful, right? And it's all based on trust and anonymity, you know. And so I can just see like great things happening from Yuru, at least from the community that does choose to reach out. Tell me more about the crisis.
Okay, so yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. So one of the things is, you know, we realize Yuru, although it does deal with, you know, a spectrum of issues from the heavier to the more, it's definitely more of a lighthearted platform, and we totally realize that there are going to be situations where people will need deeper counsel and deeper help. And so we have actually, we are currently mobile apps, so we're Apple, Android, but we have a website that is coming out next month.
Okay.
So yeah, which is, we've been working on it, and it's, you know, web version of Yuru, and we have crisis resources on that website. So we say, you know, while we're a great place to come for instant advice and you know, really quick feedback, if you need something, if you find yourself in a crisis mode, please use these resources. And I think that there are a lot of other apps out there that don't provide that.
It just sits there.
And we definitely want to be proactive in saying that, look, there, you know, you may need something more than this, and this is. And that will be coming in the app too, so that feature will be added to the app as well.
Well, that's wonderful, and a lot of times they just need first to say, right, to express, I'm not alone,
Exactly.
and here's your solution. You know, in the other apps, it's just express, I feel like I'm still alone, and then it's nothing, right? It just sits in the black hole of the internet, right?
That really
piece of
was the
content.
missing piece, right? I mean, Yuru is the place that naturally it sort of invites people to engage. It's a much more intimate experience than some of the other apps that are out there. They're just kind of confidential, like anonymous sharing and posting. This is asking people for help and asking them for engagement, and it's a much more human experience. So even if you are anonymous, it's still a very intimate engagement, I think.
Yes, and it can, I mean, a lot of it too, like my experience, is fun, right? It's not this deep, when I look at it from the parent's lens, then it's deeper than I see it. However, when I just look at it for myself, it's hilarious. And it's wonderful what people are asking about. And it's really easy, especially like, one of the questions was, have you ever cooked for your date on the first date, right? You know, yes or no, right? You know,
is that creepy?
Or is that weird?
Oh yeah, is that like too weird? You're coming to my house already? You know, for me, I found it like, it's too weird, right?
Right away.
Right, because you don't,
I think, and the thing about it, I think that's a gender thing too, because, you know, I think men would way more likely go to a woman's house if she were cooking than if a guy, you know, invited a girl to his house for the first time and she didn't really know him, that would, it sets, you know. And so one of the great features about Yuru is that we have this gender coding. So even if people are anonymous on the app, and even if they're commenting anonymously, it highlights in either blue or pink to show who the response is coming from. Because I think, and that's like a perfect example, is when you know, something like that kind of matters. So
it does. And for me as a marketer, it's all that data that you folks are capturing that would make a difference to my clients, right? Because yes, I mean, if that's insight into what, you know, single 20-something-year-olds are thinking, like, oh, I know how to market to them now, if they're comfortable that way, or, you know, or the other way, right? And so you folks are capturing all this data, and I'm kind of a data, like a information kind of geek.
That's awesome. And so the great thing is that we're capturing this data for the benefit of our users. Of course, it will be extremely valuable for, you know, potential businesses, but the whole thing is we have a Facebook login, and so some people initially were maybe a little bit put off by like, oh, you can only sign up with Facebook. The reason for that is because it provides user verification. First of all, it's a super streamlined, like easy sign-up process, one click. And the thing is, Facebook already collects all this information for you. So, you know, to have to go through it again when you're signing up for an app is very tedious, cumbersome, and people don't like to go through a million steps. So with Yuru, literally like one click. And the thing is, we then have the information, you know, generally of whether male or female, age, location too, if your location services are on. And the thing is that is beneficial to the user, because when you are filtering people's responses, say, you know, ultimately there'll be like 100, 200 responses, and you only want to know what, you know, for example, like women between the age of like 18 and 24 think about that, or, you know, a parent, you know, a dad between the age of, you know, 35
Hoping
and
to
40.
understand their
Exactly.
child, right? Yeah.
You can filter that, and you can filter by location. So if you're asking, like, where should I take her on the perfect first date? Like, if you live in Hawaii, it will be irrelevant what the person in Alaska says.
Right, or on the
So-
East Coast, it's like, oh, we don't have that. Right?
Exactly. So you can filter to make it yours, and so this is where data capture is so incredibly important and valuable for our users. But at the same time, yes, it's definitely very valuable for.
And then even
businesses too.
eventually for your communities, you just kind of share, like, hey, if you had this kind of question, this is what majority says, and just
Yeah.
to let people know, like, oh, so it's more than just the likes or the comments or the advice that I got. There's this whole other conversation happening that I didn't even see the last time I was there. So I love it. I love that you folks are capturing the data. And let's talk about the future. I mean, what are you folks looking for Yuru?
Well, right now we're raising our seed round, and so we are seeking investment, and so that's pretty much a full-time job right now.
Yeah.
It's a
That's
lot
the
harder
entrepreneur's
than I
life,
think.
I always say, like, I have no idea why the word fun is in fundraising. It has no business being there.
No.
Yeah, there's no
The
joy
thing
in
is-
no.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when you have this business that you're stoked about, you want to pour everything into the business, not into chasing people down and being like, can you give me money so that we can make this what we know it has the potential of being.
Right.
And it really takes so much time, like all the emails you have to send out, all of the investor materials you have to put together, and it's obviously incredibly important if we want to be successful and, you know, be able to create this thing, but at the same time it takes time away from
And
from
every
what
investor wants something different too.
Yeah,
Right. So it's personality, it's time, it's everything, and yet all worth it?
Oh,
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, this is our show. Thank you very much for being here, on reaching
you,
out.
yeah.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. Please download the app Yuru. And if you have any questions about it, you can email them at info@askYuru.com.
Thanks.
Aloha.